The HooperCast, don't be so shallow. The HooperCast, beat the rest of my love. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 109 of the HooperCast. It is just me right now. Today, hopefully, Dustin and I will be talking about Star Wars The Force Awakens. We carved out, this was going to be a prereq, and then I carved out, we happened upon a little pocket of free time. So I'm waiting for Dustin to get home. He's stuck in traffic. So I'm going to go ahead and get started while I'm sitting here with nothing to do. And everyone's asleep, and I got time to do this right now. So, I'm going to talk about something else until Dustin arrives, and then he will just sort of join us in progress. I wanted to talk about the TV show The League. The League just wrapped up. For those of you who don't know, it is a show that had 7 seasons, and it just finished a couple weeks ago, maybe. It was an FX, and I guess on that 7th season, it was FXX, which, again, you've all heard me talk about how stupid that is for FX to make it like they have premium content, and then they made their channel unavailable to people with the standard cable package. So people like me took to sultry, unfortunate, spam-filled sources on the internet to finish watching their show. And that was one of the reasons we ultimately cut the cord. It wasn't just because The Walking Dead wasn't that good, and it was mostly about money outside of those shows. But the one thing I was thinking was, I'm done chasing shows to their higher premium channels, and I'm tired of just getting jerked around. And sometimes the TV shows would do that thing where they only air like 2 episodes within a month. So especially if you're paying for cable just to keep up with 1 or 2 shows, they'll do that thing where, oh, it's a holiday week, so no new episode this week. And then you find out like there's been like 1 new episode this whole month. I've paid, upwards of $60 for 1 episode of The Muppets? Come on. So anyway, but The League finished up, and the first 6 seasons are available on Netflix. And if you really want my honest opinion, just go ahead and watch all those right now. I mean, the 7th season is, in my opinion, the weakest of all 6. And I usually don't rank seasons on top of each other, especially when there's 7 of them, because you don't want to be like, oh, 5's the best, and 3's number 2, and then 2's number 3, and then 1's actually number 5, but 4 is 6. It's just confusing. So, but I will say that for most of the 7th season, and maybe it's because it was the only one that I was week to week on, but probably not. The 7th season it just wasn't that great. I mean, I felt like everyone was phoning it in, to be honest. I felt like the writers were phoning it in, the executive producer writers, and I felt like the performers were phoning it in. So I'm getting ahead of myself. The League is a comedy, and a very overall well-done comedy, about a group of friends who are obsessed with fantasy football. Not just in like, oh, obsessed, but obviously it's a television comedy, so they're obsessed with it in an unhealthy manner. Like, 2 of the characters are lawyers, and one day they're in court against each other, and they essentially agree that if one of them drops Cam Newton from their lineup and puts him out on the waiver wire, that they'll plead not guilty to something. Just, these absurd levels of like dedication to their lineups, double crossing each other strictly based on the fantasy football. But it's really funny because, especially when the show started in 2009, there was no show about this topic, but that's one of the things that made it stand out, was the premise was completely original. I mean, I like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but even just the prospect of them owning a bar isn't really enough. It's just a loose premise for them to do wacky things. And while that's a overall good show as well, The League is interesting because it's about a topic that was pretty much unexplored, I think, to my knowledge, on TV. And it spoke to a whole different demographic of dudes. I mean, you got the shows like The Big Bang Theory out there. They're totally for, comic book, sciencey people. And Whereas this aimed at, football fans. This was like, hey, football fans, we put a comedy on television for you. And all these actors I would never have guessed would have been into fantasy football. You've got Mark Duplass, who's Mark and Jay Duplass, and he's an indie director and a very good one, as a star in this. His wife, Kate Asselton, I can't remember how it's pronounced or spelled. Asselton, yeah. So, and she's actually playing the wife of Steve Renazizi. I think Steve Renazizi is a stand-up comedian, among other things. And then you've got Nick Kroll. Anyone who doesn't know the Kroll Show and things of that nature, Nick Kroll's a very, very talented comedic and improvisational actor. Paul Scheer as well. And then Jean Lajoie, who is actually a Canadian. And I think he came from like soap operas, to be honest, in Canada. I don't know, but he's so funny. But they play this group of characters, and none of them seem like the type that would even be interested in football. I mean, most people who do Hollywood or TV stuff are they don't come across to me as football fans. They come across as artistic types and much more into comedy and characters and not sports. Especially Mark Duplass. And then from what I learned from just following this show and then following these actors was that through the course of doing the show, they all really got into it, and they started drafting teams, and they made up a league of the cast of the league, which is in a league together. So they're very knowledgeable about football, and they obviously follow all the NFL games now, and of course it's a whole new layer for them. And for people who don't really understand the concept, I mean, it's essentially like that's the reason people bet on things. It just gives you some extra skin in the game. While you're not just watching the game, and you're not just betting money. It's just like, okay, it's a whole new way to watch football, and I'm personally not into it because I'm not that much into watching football. But if I were, fantasy football seems like a cool thing to do with your friends if you're all into it. So the show the episodes are always real short. It's like 22 minutes. It's real easy to watch. The show is on Netflix and I believe Amazon Prime as well. It's a really funny show. If you haven't gotten into the league, I really do recommend it. Like I said, the 7th season is pretty weak. I still think it finishes up in a funny way. It certainly doesn't finish up in a meaningful way. Don't expect like a series wrap up where all the characters get a certain amount of good closure or anything heartfelt or ceremonious. It just feels there's only one thing about it that makes it feel like the end of the show, and it's essentially one gag. But it's a funny show with a lot of recurring funny characters. Jason Mantzoukas as Rafi is particularly hilarious. Seth Rogen as Dirty Randy. You got a whole lot of actors you'll recognize that really enrich the show and make it even funnier. The executive producers and creators of the show, Jeff Schaffer and Jackie Schaffer, I feel like are the inspiration for the characters of Kevin MacArthur and Jenny MacArthur, Steve Renazizi and Kate Asselton. They're a husband and wife who are both obsessed with fantasy football and, always check their lineups during inappropriate times, like when they're out to dinner or when they're at meetings and stuff. And so I think the concept was they were out to dinner one night and Jeff just couldn't stop checking his phone. And then she had said, like, we need to make a show about this. And, it's just a lot of really quick, smart improvisational comedy. And I just think it's really great. I think it's great. So check out The League. It's on Netflix. And it's really worth your time, especially because they're just so short. You can just watch them in short little spurts. And I just think each episode is really funny. And yeah, so that is The League. Still not seeing Dustin. So I'm going to keep going. Talk about some other stuff that I have seen lately. I also saw a documentary on Amazon Prime. It is called Crafted. And it is not a long documentary. It is pretty short. It's like 30 minutes or so. Yeah, and it's by Morgan Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock is what I meant to say. Oh, God, my throat's killing me. I did a lot of talking this morning, and I've also got a sore throat way up at the top of it. So laughing actually hurts. Anyway, a film by Morgan Spurlock. And so, of course, been watching a lot of documentaries lately that have to do with like old-fashioned topics like men with beards. And so, of course, the Amazon suggested this one to me next because it's about not necessarily about people who work in the trades. It's more specific than that. It's people who make, they're artisans. Anyway, you got one guy in Japan, I think, who, he's in Japan and he makes pottery. And he's talking about how, because of the way the landscape is set up, the clay that's in that area of Japan has a certain heat properties to it that makes it as a unique compound to make pottery out of, and that's why his products are superior. And it just shows, him, and also there's a couple that makes restaurant in San Francisco called Bar Tartine. Bar Tartine prepares their food they prepare it really fresh, which a lot of restaurants do, but they show how they order the whole pig and they grab the whole pig off the truck and they're not sure what they're going to do with the head yet, and they cure it for a year, and they just have a real interesting menu that's always changing, and it's just based on the kind of food they're brought in with. And the reason I don't remember those two parts nearly as much as this third part, which is the company Bloodroot Blades in Georgia, they make knives. And I responded to those guys the most, maybe just because they were the most old-fashioned blacksmithy kind of guys, who have a shed where they forge metal and they have beards, and if I get my hand hurt, I can't feed my family. But just the concept, it was nice, and it was not a fully fleshed out documentary. There could be so many more professions you could do this on, but I just liked the idea of visiting people who make things for a living, separate from manufacturing things, which is a bygone industry in America, unfortunately. But people who still, here's something you need to know about me. Here's why I'm struggling to describe this. I'm very much interested and endlessly fascinated by the greatest generation kind of guys, my grandparents' age and older, really, at this point, where they are the kind of people who, especially the men, were self-reliant. They knew how to fix everything. They could change tires. They could change their oil. They knew how to fix everything in their car. They knew how to fix everything in the house. They knew how to build a birdhouse, which I can't even do. Just things like that, like the self-reliant man. And the kind of guy whose work was related and somehow required him to work with his hands, whether you worked on an assembly line or you helped build cars or you worked on cars or, you helped build ships or you're a welder. It's a real interesting type of man to me, and frequently is an influence on how I want to be as a man, and how society today doesn't really require men to have those sort of skills anymore. I mean, most men today, not most men, but it sort of says hey, look, the future is technology, so you guys need to put down the welding mask and pick up some carpal tunnel cream so you can get to coding and make some websites, because that's what you're going to be doing, and learn some Chinese and get ready to do business overseas with them. And but coding, internet based, anything blog related, learn how to write a blog, learn how to manage a Twitter page or something. And not that that's not a relevant skill, I guess, but I'm much more interested in the guys who just had to make things from scratch or had to just rely on their hands to do stuff. So I'm particularly interested in this documentary and those kind of guys, because I just think that's admirable. I don't know. And that's just the kind of thing I'm interested in. Those are the kind of guys I look up to. And so it's really cool to see a couple of dudes who in 2015, their business is they make knives, essentially in their shed. I mean, it's a legit blacksmith shop But they essentially go into their backyard and make knives. They make like 300 knives a year, and that's their business. And I just thought that was so cool. So anyway, maybe it's not for all of you guys, but I just thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was really cool to see people who did that. So, yeah, Dustin has still not showed up. I don't know what's up with him. I hope he's okay. How about this? Let's take a break. When we come back, one or both of us will be talking about Star Wars The Force Awakens. Hey guys, quick commercial break here. I want to tell you real quick about Letterboxd. For those who don't know, Letterboxd is a social network for film lovers that lets you track, rate, and review the films you watch, follow other members to get recommendations, publish lists of films, and plenty more. It's free to use, but a pro account provides additional features such as a customized summary of your past year's viewing. And right now, our listeners have the chance to win a free 1-year pro account upgrade or extension on Letterboxd. To enter, email us at the show at HooperCast@gmail.com for your chance to win. Just type Hooper in the subject line and include your Letterboxd username in the email. The winner will be selected at the end of each month, and then boom, free pro account upgrade or extension for 1 year. You can also follow our show on Letterboxd. Just search for HooperCast. Again, that's letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com. And now back to the show. A lot of these shows coming up are going to be prereqs. Maybe it's just getting real busy in the Hooper household, and it's just getting harder to schedule good times to record this with Dustin, as opposed to apart and put together later. So I don't really know when things will kind of fall back to normal for me, but my attention is needed elsewhere. So bear with me, as some of these may be a little more pre-produced than we usually do. Next episode, next week for New Year's, will be part 1 of our look ahead to 2016. So we're really excited about showing that to you guys. So stay tuned for that. Enjoy your Christmas. Or I guess this was coming out. This will be out Christmas Day. So enjoy Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy holidays. Yeah, season's greetings. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays for all of you guys. And have a safe Christmas season, safe Christmas weekend. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the time with your friends. Or just enjoy the time not having to be at work. But I don't want to get poignant on you guys or anything. But, really appreciate the time that you have with your family. It's really important. And for those of you who don't have families or really any friends, there's some really good movies out in theaters right now. So, I could probably talk about that. Sorry. That's in theaters right now. There's Concussion, starring Will Smith, about concussions, NFL, I believe. Is that what it is? Is that what this movie's about? Not really that interested in it. Dramatic thriller based on the incredible true David versus Goliath story of American immigrant Dr. Bennett Omalu, a brilliant forensic neuropathologist who made the first discovery of CTE. So if you're interested in concussions, go see Concussion. There's also Daddy's Home, starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. They've proven to be a good comedic team before for the other guys. I'm just not too interested in this movie, to be honest. But it's starring HooperCast show favorite Linda Cardellini as well. But, could be funny, maybe not. What you probably want to go see this Christmas Day, if you haven't already seen Star Wars, is Joy. Directed by David O. Russell and starring frequent David O. Russell cast members Jennifer Lawrence, Bradley Cooper, and Robert De Niro. If that annoys you, yeah, it is a little annoying to have the same group of people playing different dynamics, but they're all really good actors too. Joy is the story of a family across 4 generations and the woman who rises to become founder and matriarch of a powerful family business dynasty. So everything I'm hearing about this is that Jennifer Lawrence is really good in it, and as much as I'm sort of not digging her right now, I can't deny her watchability on screen and her charisma and her acting ability. So I'm hearing that Joy is great. So maybe you want to go see Joy. There's also the Point Break remake. So if you like repackaged brand recognition, but with some probably some cool stunts, then check that out. Not starring Keanu Reeves or Patrick Swayze. Sorry. There's The Big Short, which was about the bank bailouts, I believe. And economy stuff. I'm sort of sick of revisiting that topic, so I'm not going to go see it. Also The Revenant, starring. God, this is a big slate of films. The Revenant, that movie where Leonardo DiCaprio allegedly does not get raped by a bear. But the more they say he doesn't get raped by a bear, the more I'm thinking he probably does, and they just don't want to say it before the movie opens. So why don't you go see it and see for yourself? Maybe he gets raped by a bear. Maybe they're just wrestling, but maybe they're not. There's also The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino's new film, which is, honestly, if I were to go to the theaters today, this would be the most likely thing I'd see. Quentin's on a roll lately. Not a fan of Kill Bill or any of these other Death Proof or any of these other kind of dumber, in my opinion, movies. I'm really into the stuff he's doing recently, though, like Bastards and Django. So Hateful Eight, I didn't even really watch a trailer. I don't need to. I know that I'll be interested in it, and I don't really want to even see that much about it. So great cast. Hateful Eight starring Kurt Russell, Samuel L. Jackson, Tim Roth, Walton Goggins. Love Walton Goggins. So a lot of cool people in that film. So maybe you want to see The Hateful Eight. Oh, there's Dustin right now. So let me go ahead and hop on with him. Just talking to Dustin. I've been recording for a little bit while I was waiting on yous. So I'm giving the people some bonus stuff. So I'm just going to keep rolling where I'm at.
What have you talked about so far?
I talked about, I finished The League, so I talked about The League, and then I talked about a film called Crafted by Morgan Spurlock about people who make stuff. Mm-hmm. I did that one pretty poorly, I think, but I did The League pretty well, if I'm going to self-assess.
Gotcha.
And then I talked about, everything that was coming out today, which is Merry Christmas, Dustin.
Merry Christmas, Hooper.
Wow, I hope your Christmas morning was great.
It was, and all of you beautiful people out there, I hope your mornings were also great.
Yes, and then I pontificated about how Christmas was important for family stuff, and then I realized I was getting preachy, so I said there's a lot of good movies out today, and then that's when we'll just do that. I'm just kidding. So for everyone listening, that part was meant to be tacked on after Dustin got here, but now that we're referencing it so much, I'm just going to leave it where it was. So Dustin, you saw The Force Awakens.
Yes.
Awakens. Not awakened, past tense. The movie begins with someone saying, "Hey, so it already happened, and we weren't here with the cameras to
right." Here's what you need to know between that last one and this one.
But I'll tell you,
it has happened.
I'll tell you what happened if you want to pull up a chair. I have a rough outline of what happened.
My name is JJ.
Yes,
I'll walk you through the event.
I'm JJ.
I'll be your tour guide.
So let me say real quick, I didn't know how spoilery you intended on getting, but don't worry about me. I don't care.
Really.
So you can. I mean, I'm betting that most people listening to this have seen it. So
sure.
Don't hold back on my account.
Okay. Well, I'd like to keep it spoiler free, just because there's a few things that I think are big that happen in this film, and one of them was spoiled for me.
Okay.
And I would hate to do that to another person.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep that to myself. So it's going to take a little bit of fancy footwork here, but I'm going to try to dance around some spoilers while still giving you guys a full review of the film.
All right.
So you want me to take it away?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Star Wars The Force Awakens, you all already know this is the 7th film in the Star Wars franchise, and it takes place, obviously, after Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now, so let's get you caught up to speed a little bit. After the events of Return of the Jedi, Luke has opened a sort of like a training program for young Jedi, and has in recent times gone missing. And this is due in large part to a betrayal that has happened to Luke. And this is all sort of talked about in the opening, text crawl, that Luke is missing, and they may have found a partial map to Luke's location, the first clue in a very long time as to where Luke might be holed up at. And so they're going to they being the Resistance, going to try to find him because there's a new power that's taking over. This is called the First Order, and these are users of the Force who utilize the dark side, obviously, led by General Hux, played by Domhnall Gleeson.
Cosby. Oh, damn it.
No, it isn't General Huxtable, but that would be legit.
God, that'd be so funny.
That would be hilarious. Hello, everybody. You don't know the power of the dark side.
Drink this. No.
No.
I'll just stay right there, use the Force, open my mouth and take a drink of this tea.
Oh, Hooper, you went there. I was going to stay with Dr. Huxtable, and you went full Bill Cosby.
Well, wait, if you just let me finish here, you see, they're drinking the tea. Okay, what do you think of the tea? This is delicious. This is very delicious tea. Yeah, there's nothing in it. This is herbal tea with honey. I just wanted you to try it, and I know
That's
you
good for your vocal cords.
On your own recognizance, so I'm sorry I forced you to drink it, but now will you have some willingly? I absolutely will. Okay, that's good. We're friends now. And then 6 hours later, they're still talking, having tea. Nothing happened. Nothing at all.
Nothing has happened.
Yes. Everything's fine.
Wow, I did not even make that connection. Yeah, so General Hux and also a mysterious figure named Kylo Ren are leading up this First Order, and obviously they seek to destroy the Resistance and take over all the things. So obviously Luke's presence is needed, and this could be a huge score for the Resistance if they were to find him. This is sort of where the story begins. It begins with a character named Poe Dameron who visits a small little village on a planet named Jakku, and Poe Dameron encounters a man played by Max von Sydow who has this map, and then here comes Kylo Ren, and he destroys the village, kills everybody, and we see that one of his stormtroopers is having a little bit of a hard time shooting innocent people. So this is strange. And then we're introduced to a character played by Daisy Ridley. Her name is Rey. She is a scrapper on Jakku, and she gets by just barely selling parts that she scraps from old Empire ships and whatnot. And so we're introduced to her, and she finds a droid called BB-8, who Poe Dameron has entrusted the map he got from Max von Sydow to. And so now that Rey has found BB-8, she is now in, although she doesn't know it, she now has possession of the map to Luke Skywalker.
So this is very similar to R2-D2 having the plans of the Death Star.
It's very similar. And that's what you'll find in The Force Awakens. A lot of the story beats are very similar to A New Hope. This works both for it and against it. If you're building a Star Wars film, and especially if you're building a franchise, which is sort of what they're doing here, they're rebuilding. It makes sense to go back to where it started from, story-wise. It makes sense to try to rebuild on those same little foundational points. So I get it. I understand that. At the same time, it does feel a little bit like they are retreading old ground in certain areas, and some things become a little predictable because you can kind of see the path that they're following. That's a negative to the film. It's also a positive to the film, so therefore, I guess it's a neutral point. But yeah, you'll find there are a lot of sort of analogs between the films. So the film is very enjoyable. If I were to rank it, I would say it's right up there behind Empire Strikes Back in terms of my favorite Star Wars films. So I probably do like this better than Return of the Jedi and A New Hope, both of which I do like. I don't love, but I do like. I think this is a solid movie, if not, a little bit sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit similar to A New Hope. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It's very watchable, very rewatchable. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. So that works, to its credit. It has interesting characters. The acting is all top notch. Especially from the newcomers, John Boyega and Daisy Ridley. I say newcomers, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think Daisy Ridley is a relative newcomer, but John Boyega has been in a few things.
Mm-hmm.
But from those guys, great stuff. Then you have your more seasoned actors, Andy Serkis, Domhnall Gleeson, Max von Sydow. Obviously, the original trilogy returning characters, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and the like. So they all kind of blend together, and they feel like they're all in, a film that they feel like they're all in the same film. That was sort of a concern of mine that, okay, you got Harrison Ford back, great, but is he passionate enough to make it seem like he cares to be there? Mm-hmm. The answer is yes. He does, try his darnest to pull this off again, and he does. Same with Carrie Fisher. I had my reservations thinking maybe she wouldn't be able to fall back into that Princess Leia, General Leia, sort of thing. But she does. You're returning people like Anthony Daniels or Peter Mayhew. I mean, they knock it out of the park.
I can't believe Anthony Daniels and Peter Mayhew were still up for doing this. That's crazy.
It really is. Peter Mayhew's not in the best of health, but and Anthony Daniels, you can tell his voice has aged. But I think it means a lot to have them there. I mean, even though his voice has aged, I think it's better to have him than to have somebody do an Anthony Daniels impression.
Yeah. At least for the first one. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but if he dies, next year,
right,
and they had to make more of these movies with C-3PO, I mean. Mm-hmm. At least it would have been like, oh, we didn't consult him at all, Right,
exactly. And to that end, you'll hear Frank Oz in the film, as well as Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness. So they're pulling out all the stops here, and this is definitely a love letter, and it's sort of like, hey, fans, we know this is what you've kind of wanted. Here you go. I mean, here's the way that I break it down. I'll break it down by act. The first act is super satisfying and very much like, okay, this is exactly what I've wanted from Star Wars for a long time. The middle act drags. I think they get bogged down in a few things. Lupita Nyong'o, is that how you say her name? Mm-hmm. Has as a character who has been compared to Yoda. I think she's a little sort of copycatish. And, she's a wise alien creature who's been around for thousands of years. Yeah. It's not a necessary character, and so you'll see more of that in the second act than at any other time. You've got your Cantina band, kind of the Cantina they went to in A New Hope. You've got that sort of a thing going on, so it's maybe more obviously repetitive there. And then it drags a little bit story wise because I'm not 100% sure what the forward momentum here is. And then you have your third act, which I feel like starts a little slow, and then around the climax, it is really, really intense, and I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. I think the film opens a lot of questions. Which is great, but at the same time, a little bit of a problem because we just have to take it on faith at this point that all of these things are going to work out, that all of these questions are going to be answered. I'm not good at that. I like to have, not that there can't be mysteries, but when you're restarting the franchise,
it's got to be self-contained.
Yeah, I would like for it to feel self-contained, and I know there was never a way that this wasn't going to get a sequel, so it's not like it needed to be self-contained. But at the same time, I would like for it to pique my interest, but not have a lot of glaring, because at this point, some of them feel like holes, and now they're going to be filled in, but they're holes for now.
Yeah, and
rather than just like little tantalizing details.
And movies, no matter how interconnected movies can be, the best Marvel films to me are the ones that are not very open. I mean, they're open-ended, but there's nothing from that movie that you really have questions about. Like The Winter Soldier is so good because at the end of the film, your only real question is, okay, let's go find the Winter Soldier. But you don't care right that minute where he is because it's really not important to the overall closure of the film.
Right.
And in any movie, even if it's the first part of a trilogy, it's like it still has to be self-contained. You can have a couple of overarching questions, but if there's something that you spent the whole film being like, how's this going to end? And they say, well, tune in next week. It's like, I'm not watching TV, dude. I'm watching a movie.
And this leads me to a problem with, I don't want to spoil this. So there's a character in the film that...
Do you want to tell me and then I can bleep it? Or is it going to be too specific even with that?
I think it's too specific. So there's a character...
Damn it, I want to know.
I know. There's a character in the film that much is made of. They're like, throughout the film referencing this character. And this character by the end of the film has 0 lines. So there's so much ambiguity there that it's like, man, I still don't know. I waited so long. And then even in the film, you're like, teasing me like, okay, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. And then I don't get it. Stuff like that. Obviously there's going to be a sequel, but that kind of bugs me.
That's frustrating. Sorry to interrupt again. I just let me just say, like, that is frustrating because even on repeat viewings, not repeat viewings, even fast forward 5 years, you've got all 3 of these and you're watching them in sequence at home, like one weekend. Even though you've seen the film, at least for me, that's the kind of thing that no matter if I know that, like, when he shows up in the second movie, it's really intense because because while we're sitting on the couch watching this first movie, I know the whole time we're never going to see this guy, or the impact of all this buildup will not be felt in this movie. And even though you'll feel it an hour later while you're watching the second one, like it's still the fact that it doesn't happen within this story arc is frustrating. That idea is frustrating to me.
It frustrates me because it feels like a television show, and these films haven't proved themselves to be that yet.
Yeah.
If Marvel did that, I feel like it would be a different thing because the
They've
next Marvel movie, they've been doing it for years, and the next Marvel movie isn't too far away.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's source material too, so if they show Thanos, I can go read the comics and figure out a little bit about what Thanos is about. Yeah. Whereas with this, you're referencing this character. I may never know about this for years, or I won't know about this for years.
Honestly, that cynically, that tells me that they don't know yet. I mean, this is what David Lindelof has taught me, is that if you've built up something and then you show the thing and you don't really show much or really set anything in stone about that thing, it's because he's still sitting at home going like, oh crap, what am I going to write?
Well, I'll say this. This is true, and I would think this, but this particular character, they build up so much through the film that I have to believe there's a plan, and they're just not ready to give us the culmination of this idea yet.
It's awful trusting of you, Dustin.
I know it really is, but part of that is also because the way they do it, I don't have a problem with. It's the fact that it's done. It's a really strange conundrum in that when I saw it on screen and I knew okay, there's probably there's not enough time left in this film to adequately give me what I want here. I knew that the journey had been fun, so I was okay with it. But the more distance I get from my viewing of it, I'm thinking, man, that kind of was a tease that was mean, So anyway, there's that. Now I'm gonna really juggle this, okay? So bear with me. There is a huge event that happens in this film, which this was the event that was spoiled for me, unfortunately. So I'm going to be very careful not to spoil it for people. This is a huge event that happens in the film. I haven't even give you any information, but if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. This thing that happens towards the end of the film, and the big question is, are you okay with this happening? And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I talked to my brother about it actually today. And the sort of the consensus is, I'm okay with the fact that this thing that happens, I'm okay with it happening. I'm not okay with how it happens. I don't feel like and this is true for a lot of the film. Now, this is why I bring it up. I'm not just here to nitpick a single, scene out of the film. But I feel like a lot of the film is disjointed. Our main characters are Daisy Ridley and John Boyega's characters, Ray and Finn. Ray and Finn feel a little more like ping pong balls like pinballs in a pinball machine. They're just kind of going places and things are happening around them, rather than them having their own specific goal that they must achieve. Yeah, it's almost like they're just there witnessing all of this, like thrown into it, as opposed to being active participants of it, especially sort of right up until the end. So what that does is this big event that happens technically happens in the B or maybe even the C story of the film. So that's fine as long as when it happens, it trickles up to the A story and affects everything that happens from that point on. Every decision that the characters make are different because this event in the B or C story has happened. And what that does is it gives a sense of gravity to the moment. It gives a sense of gravity to what has happened and allows you as the audience member to feel that what has happened is a huge thing. And this doesn't have that. There's another event, which is similar to, I think the thing that you would compare it to maybe in A New Hope is the explosion of Alderaan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those, like, these are the stakes kind of moments. And when this happens, again, it's not like Leia, when Alderaan explodes, Leia, is clearly distraught, and it clearly has a ripple effect on her. In this film, it doesn't feel like it has that ripple effect, and here's sort of a J.J. Abrams analog is in the original. I say the original in the reboot Star Trek movie. There's the destruction of planet Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like that moment had the gravity that it should have had. You see sort of its impact on Spock, but you don't feel it. Like, for me, I feel it on a personal basis, but I don't feel like everybody on the ship is so emotionally compromised because millions of people have just died. That should slow the film to a halt. You know what I mean? Give it its due. Give that moment its due. And I didn't feel like in that Star Trek film that moment was given proper weight. And I feel the same way about this, raising of the stakes moment here. So I feel like, and that's probably because it happens not in the A story. So I think what happened in the making of this film is you've got these stories, but they don't interlock enough to make sort of emotional connection between them. And that's a problem. You have to be able to feel it and feel how the characters in the A story are affected by what's happening in the B story. And while they are maybe in that they have a reaction, there's not a weight to, okay, well, now that this has happened, our game plan is different. So I feel like the film's a little disjointed. Like I said, our A story, Ray and Finn, they don't have maybe clear motives throughout the film. They don't have a focus. And here's the big criticism. I told you what happened in the opening text crawl. It's talking about finding Luke Skywalker. So you think like that would be your A story because it's mentioned right there, but it's not. So it's very strange the way that the film is assembled between your A, your B, your C, your D, story, because there's a lot of stories happening here. It's very strange, and I don't feel like those two moments are earned or given the weight that they deserve. And that's as specific as I can be without spoiling it.
Right.
But here's what I want to say. I still enjoyed the movie. I thought the movie was fun, and I thought it was a breath of fresh air to the franchise. I felt like, it paid homage to the prequels without really validating them. Mm-hmm. it paid clear tribute to the original 3 films, which obviously it should draw from those. It felt like it made sense. One of my concerns was that, okay, so Vader brings balance to the Force at the end of Episode 6. Phenomenal. Why is there still problems happening now? Why are there problems that are rippling on still? Those things are answered. Those questions are addressed, and if not explicitly, they're implied. And I think that things make more sense when you're in the film than they maybe do when you're looking at it from the outside. Mm-hmm. But I had a lot of fun with it, and it's just fun watching Harrison Ford be Han Solo. It's fun seeing Chewbacca. It's fun seeing C-3PO and all of these guys back. Admiral Akbar's here. I mean, all of your favorite dudes are here, and that's really fun. And even your least favorite characters are here, and they're fun. So it's great. As for the newcomers, the new characters, Rey and Finn, I'm a little on the fence about them both. Only because at the end of this film, their storylines can go in so many different directions that I don't know what really to think. Like, I don't know 100% what's going to happen. I think maybe there's more of a sense of closure with Rey than there is with Finn, but I enjoyed the characters, although I don't think they are as fully formed as Luke, Han, and Leia were. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, look, I know that sounds like I'm being very critical of it. There are problems with the film. Having said that, that doesn't really overshadow how much I did enjoy it and how much fun I thought it was. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of fun, sequences. And, you know what? I mean, it's a Star Wars movie. To me, these movies aren't like grand high cinema. Like, a lot of people kind of make them out to be like, this is the pinnacle of science fiction. Yeah, right. To me, I don't think that. So I didn't go in expecting to be like floored. So maybe that helped me enjoy it. You know what? I'll say this. Kylo Ren is a phenomenal villain. And when you have a character to root against, or a character to hate, that makes a difference. I mean, that's a huge deal. We've talked before about the problem with the Marvel villains. This film does not have that problem. Both of the villains here, General Hux and Kylo Ren, are frightening and are twisted and are just mean. So it helps to have those characters to hate, because then you realize how much you like the characters you don't hate. And the only other maybe critique is that I think it didn't do enough world building. It kind of reestablished, but it didn't bring anything new. But I guess that's okay, because the film needed a foundation. The franchise needed a new foundation.
That's true.
So I guess that's okay. It's not a huge deal. So I guess that's sort of a good example of my point. These are problems for sure, but they don't really overshadow the good for me in this particular instance. So I enjoyed the film. I will see it again. I don't know if I'll buy it right off, but I'll see it again, and I certainly enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and am on board more than I thought I would be. And I'll be darned if I'm not looking forward to the next Star Wars film. As for Star Wars Rogue One, the spinoff, I'm still not looking forward to that.
Right.
I don't care what happens between episode 3 and 4, honestly. I couldn't care less. And if you're going to show me more of Darth Vader, I mean, okay, that's fine, I guess, but I don't need any more of Darth Vader. I've had 6 movies with the guy. I don't need any more.
Yeah.
So, and 3 of those movies were awful, and I hated Darth Vader or Anakin in those. So I don't need any more. So I don't need any more reason to think he's the best one of the best screen villains of all time. I just don't. So I'm not looking forward to that, but I am looking forward to episode 8 and 9. And I believe episode 8 will be done by Ryan Johnson and episode 9 by Colin Trevorrow, if I remember right.
Okay.
So yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So all in all, I know most of you, judging by the box office, have already seen this film.
Yeah.
If so, good for you. If you haven't, it is worth your time. Don't miss out on this on the big screen just because you're like me and kind of against this movie in theory. Because it surprised me. And I think it is worth seeing on the big screen and experiencing it with an audience.
Miss it because you're like me and you can't afford to go to the movies anymore.
This is true. If you have responsibilities and children and you know,
yeah.
I get it. That's fine. But if you're like me and you were just going to miss it because,
bitter.
or you just weren't, I wasn't going to miss it.
You're
I was
a
just not in a
sad,
hurry
bitter
to see
old
it
man.
because I was a cynical hipster who was like, no, the originals. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, don't be that. Just know this is worth your time, and it's worth seeing in an audience or with an audience, not in an audience.
Skip
That's
the
weird.
2 packs of clove cigarettes this week and go see Star Wars instead, hipsters.
There you go. Yeah, don't buy that typewriter or that one or that unicycle or whatever hipsters buy. I don't know, and or that beard oil. Instead, check out Star Wars. You know what? I think I'm even missing the point because I think all the hipsters did see this.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Hey, let me ask. So the original 3 actors, were their roles and the things they did in the film? Here's a thing for me. I wanted everything they did in the movie to be believable. Like, I didn't want to see Harrison Ford doing any weird stunts that I felt like a 65-year-old dude couldn't, or however old he is now. I didn't want to see him do anything that seemed implausible for a man of his age. And that goes for all 3 of them. Would I be satisfied with the believability of what they do in the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
You definitely would. Now, let me venture to answer your question into spoiler territory.
Okay.
So all of you people that have not listened, jump forward a few minutes, okay? Or haven't seen the movie, jump forward a few minutes. Harrison Ford has the largest of the 3 in terms of role size. Then Carrie Fisher, then Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Don't expect much from the latter 2 because there's not much. As for Harrison Ford, who spends time with our main protagonists and is in a good chunk of the film, yes, you're going to be satisfied because he's not doing unnecessary Yoda flippy jumps or anything. He's just like there.
He's flying a ship.
Yeah. So you'll see him run a couple of times, but when you do, he's winded.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Harrison Ford being asked to run, and although he just ran like right around that corner, he's still winded already. Yeah, don't worry about that. They're not going to CG him up and make him fight like he's in the raid or anything.
Just do a CG face replacement of Harrison Ford.
Right.
But it's it's the black guy from Casino Royale doing all the parkour.
Yes,
he remains exactly black. He just has Harrison Ford's face.
Yeah. No. I think you'll be satisfied.
I can't remember what movie that was where they did the whole play on the stuntman not looking like the actor, and they had the stuntman being. I think it was Wayne's World. They had the stuntman clearly wasn't Mike Myers, doing a bunch of stuff, and then he pops up and it's him again. I think they even they allow you to see his face for a second, and it's not him. Yeah. Now my last question is.
Okay.
How with the technology we're able to do today, the amount of stuff we're able to put on screen for the amount of money, and the amount of ease and clarity compared to matte paintings and miniatures, as opposed to the terrible CG from the prequels and what I consider to be, I have the original trilogy on Blu-ray. And the stuff has changed, but the texture of miniatures looks very good on Blu-ray. And so the space battles are incredible because the shadows are good and all the How are all the space sequences in this movie visually? Will I be impressed?
Yeah, all of that stuff is great. You won't be impressed. I mean, you won't be
let down
by any of that. What you may be let down by, although there are more than its fair share of practical aliens and monsters and things in the film, there are CG characters. They don't all look great, which is unfortunate. How much do I want to spoil here? There's a character who, when he appears, is really only sitting and moving, and like moving his head. That character, it feels like, could have been done with a puppet, or some sort of prosthetic, but they opted motion capture, and this is Andy Serkis's character. He, Andy Serkis does great. It's the rendering on the character himself that is not super believable. It just looks CG. It doesn't look like photoreal. Like, I guess the thing to compare it to is like, if you look at Optimus Prime or you look at even Gollum in The Hobbit, the first Hobbit film, they look real. They look like they're in that space with those actors.
Yeah.
This is more akin to... oh, shoot.
You could just say Jar Jar Binks. I mean, that's not a great comparison, but...
Yeah, Jar Jar is more cartoony than this guy is, but you can just tell. You never quite buy into the fact that he's there with the people.
Yeah. This isn't.
It's
not like Christopher Johnson in District 9, where you feel like he's real, he's there, he has weight and texture. You feel like he's just a weightless computer creation.
Which to its in its defense, to its credit, is the fact that it is a hologram. It's a Star Wars hologram. But there's supposed to be it's like a trick on the audience. You don't know he's a hologram until it shimmers. And so for a time it's supposed to look photoreal. It's supposed to look like they're with this person until it shimmers and he disappears. But it doesn't look real. It never did. So I don't know how to feel about it other than to just say it doesn't. It's not impressive. The other thing is Lupita Nyong'o's character, this Yoda type, has poor design. It's like orange skin, like a pumpkin kind of a skin tone, but an alien that has like pores and humanistic like eyes and nose and whatnot, but like a really skinny neck and skinny body and big head. I don't know. Anyway, it's never quite believable. So,
all right. Well, that sounds like an overall positive review, and I think you stated that it was. So, as I said before, in what's playing now, obviously Star Wars has been out for a week at this point. So see all those other things I suggested if you have already seen this. But if you haven't seen this might be a good thing to go see. Some nice epic visual escapism. And
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, Dustin, thanks for joining me today. And
thanks for having me.
Everyone else out there, thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys next week for the look ahead to 2016, Part 1.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Infinity War. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Stay hooping.
Merry Hoopy Christmas.
Hoopy Christmas.
Hoopy Christmas, Ron.
Hoopy Christmas, Harry.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.